Good evening, folks. Reloading Bench back with you once again. And this is a continuation of the Midway grab bag. So I showed you the Harvey deprimer previously. And these remaining items, products, relate to everything else that's out on the bench that I will walk through. So this might end up being a long video with a few different segments because of what it's going to cover. But in short, the remaining two items in the Midway grab bag are more Lee innovations. And you might say to yourself, dude, we've seen these before. This is just another, seating, micrometer seating die. And you would almost be correct. So I did a video many months ago about Lee coming out with this particular product, another great innovation where you, Lee, and you could turn any Lee seating die into a micrometer-based seating die. Repeatable measurements, 1/1000th of a granular scale. This was cool. Very, very cool. Picked a few of these up. They didn't fit so well in my red cases for 223, but they work great. And then I could adjust, I could set my settings when I adjusted from, say, a 55 grain to a 77 grain bullet in terms of the height and the seating. So this was awesome. This was great. Then Lee did something even better. They created a die with the micrometer built into the die. So it wasn't an add-on, it was the die with the actual micrometer. And what that allowed was a smaller footprint. Again, an all-in-one versus an add-on. So this was like 15 bucks, and this I think was 25-ish or something. But again, very cool, very innovative. No one else is doing the same thing. Now, you could say that other people have a micrometer. They do. Do they have a $25 die micrometer? No, they don't. Do they have a $14, I think it's $19 now, add-on for their existing product line? I don't think so. So kudos to Lee for the ongoing innovation space. And I don't care how much desiccant I have. I should get these all in brass. Oh well, that's a whole nother issue. So you're saying to yourself, maybe, hey self, what's he doing? He's just talking about another, micrometer add-on to a die. Well, that's a true statement. These are both the same thing, but for different calibers. So we'll focus on the 9mm caliber. What makes this different, and I believe it was Fortune Cookie 45LC who discovered this, brought it, and again, I might be wrong, so, correct me if I am right or wrong. He brought this to Lee's attention because what he did was he put this product this seating die product, into the factory crimp, turning the factory crimp, the Lee FCD, into a seating die factory crimp combination. Now and I run a seating die crimp combo from RCBS, and I'll be honest, not my fave. And the reason I say not my fave is because I discovered, and that's what these unprimed pieces of brass are for. When I would shoot my either 45 ACP or 9mm, I never have any issues. But with my son's higher end 2011s, some of them with the tighter tolerances on the match barrel would choke on my 9mm, because on my Dillon, I have the combo seating crimp RCBS die. This is a micrometer for the factory crimp seater adapter. So this comes with a seater plug that you just insert into a factory crimp die. So I have here stuff I've collected over the years. My two favorite, because I have an RCBS crimp seating die, seating crimp, for both my Dillon 9mm press and my Hornady 45 ACP press. So I went digging around before I figured out, do I need to buy a separate FCD? And the answer is no, I do not need to buy a separate FCD. And this is my crimp die. Got to make sure I've got the right die going. So what this die is, unthread the adjustable screw cap from the top of the crimp die, thread the carbide factory crimp die into the press until it touches the shell holder. Finger tighten the lock ring. Crimp adjustment. Install a flared case into the press shell holder. Screw the micrometer seater into the die body until it stops. Adjust the adapter depth if crimp is desired, and snug lock. Bullet seating adjustment. Install flared case with bullet on top. Rotate thimble clockwise until overall length is achieved. Adjust the cartridge overall length to the desired length by turning the thimble clockwise. Remember, each line on the thimble represents a thousandth of an inch. The micrometer seater reads exactly the same as the precision depth micrometer. So that is cool. So we can essentially take this this 9mm carbide, take this out, put this in. Now I will play with adjustments off camera, and what I will plan on doing is adjusting this factory crimp seating combination now to the exact depth of, I'll do 3, I'll read 3 just to make sure. Let's see how consistent. So my normal process, and I'll pull out my Dillon to do this, would be to make my bullets, create, decap, prime, charge, bullet, seat / combo crimp. Then I would take my 9mm turret, put it in my Lee Classic turret press, and then factory crimp everything I've loaded. Pain in the ass. And that's one of the reasons why I've been an advocate for more stations on a press. So I'm at roughly 1135. That bullet looks a little damaged. One 115. Well, I'm all over the map. 115. One 135. That's the anomaly of the 3. Let me get a couple more and see where we're at. 11355. 535. Same. That's about like that. So we're going to say that, let's go with 1.15. And you can see my level of uber consistency there. So with these factory crimped, I should be able to drop these in here and they play very nice, very smooth. See, they're very flat. Very flat, everything's golden. Once shot brass, not seating all the way. I'll do all 5. And you know what? I'll mark these. Again, not seated flat. Not seated flat. Stubborn. And not necessarily seating flat. Let's make sure that's not a 40. No, that's 9mm. All right, so we'll mark these so you know that I'm doing the same one. So we'll pop the primers. Put a little dash on them. Put a little dash on them. Little dash, dash. All right, so they'll have a dash on the bottom. And obviously my live rounds do not. So what I will do is I will run these through the Dillon. No powder, no prime. So this will be an uncharged, unprimed case that'll be resized. And I will drop this 115 grain in. I will not factory crimp. And we'll see how they drop in here. Then I will factory crimp. And we'll see how they drop so you can see the difference. All right, back in a second. All right, so here are my 5 stripe, 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 stripe. So there's my 5 dummy rounds. Let's see, before we do anything, let's see where they're coming in size-wise. 1.14, 1.151, 1.43, 1.143, 1.149, super inconsistent, 1.420. Again, maybe a mix of bullets, hole punching, not going to lose a minute's sleep. All right, so let's see where we are. Again, this is straight from Dillon using, let me grab it. This is my RCBS cedar crimper. Again, no bash on RCBS, none whatsoever. I've just found that for some finicky pew-pews, I need to Lee factory crimp. And I'm a fan of Lee factory crimp. I have Lee factory crimp on all of my turrets. All of my turret dies. All right, so let's see how these drop. I'm guessing I'll need that. So we've got some, again, these have been factory crimped, totally flush. So that was a little up, little up. Little up. Again, nothing major. That one's the best so far, but still not flush. A little bit of a lip. So we'll put this one off to the side. That was the best. And this one was almost as good. So these 2 were the best. These 3 were less best. All right, so what I will now do is I will factory crimp with the Lee on my LCT. Which means Yep, let me bust out my primer arm. Let me bust out my shell holder. Where's 19? You know, normally I'd have to pull this out because I wouldn't have been prepared to do this yet because multi-step process. So I will install that with the factory crimp. I will leave the indexing rod out because I'm doing the same process repeatedly. All right, so I now have my LCT set up. And for people who like to bash Lee products, I can switch dies, I can switch calibers rather, I can switch shell plates, I can shell holders, and I can switch priming arms in seconds. Nobody else can do that. All right, so these were the two best. So I'm going to factory crimp this one. Move stuff out of the way. Probably helps if I actually do the factory crimp instead of putting it in the wrong die. That's been crimped. That's been crimped. This one. Ooh, that was, I'm gonna guess that was that really tight one. And that one was not as tight. All right, so let's see where we are post crimp. I'm going to say 1.147, 1.150, 1.145, little tighter tolerances, 1.154950, 1.141. All right, now the real test is how will they drop? Fingers crossed. So these two were the best, so we'll save those for the last. A little bit of lip. Not quite as good as that one. So I would say this is now on a par with what those were. That dropped. Still, there's a little bit of a lip there. Better than what it was. Again, a little bit of a lip, better than what it was. At least I hope so. I'm sure somebody will comment. That is on a par of what it was, I want to say. And that was maybe a little bit better than what it was. Point being, the factory crimp made a difference, in my opinion. Some may differ. Some may beg to differ. So now what I will do is I'll set these off to the side. I'll set the Dillon press up, and this will be a longer wait for me, not for you. I'll set the Dillon up with the factory crimp / seating die, try to get it into, you know, reasonable accuracy with this, and then run 5 more. I'll probably I don't know if I'll decap. Maybe I'll leave these, and that'll be one test bed, and I will do 5 more. That in fact, the difference will be the 5 that I do won't have the stripe. I'll do 5 more with the intent of seating and crimping and testing with this new Lee product, this new really cool Lee product. And I forget what this was, another 15 or 20 bucks. Again, for what it does to the crimp die, this could be some magicness. All right, back in a little bit. So my camera turned off, and I don't know why. I just did the crimp on these two, the extra classic turret crimp on these two, and it does do flush, and that does do flush. So that tells me I will tinker a little bit with the adjustment here to make sure that these go flush so I have the same results as the standalone factory crimp. Love the factory crimp. So I would say newness out of the box, first exposure. I like this better than this, and this gave me more consistency than this, smaller standard deviation in my opinion. So I will tinker with this to get those results so that everything is flush. And this is another winner from Lee. I can't say enough about Lee, especially as of late, all the stuff they're doing to improve your existing investment. So I'll call that investment protection. So kudos to Lee. Good stuff. That's it for now. And I am back. So I did, after I did my first and second tests of five each, no slash versus no slash. I did another test and adjustments. So this will now look different because the 9mm label is now facing, you can see the zero line, or at least the gradient, the vertical gradient, whereas before it was over here. So I adjusted the die itself, and then I readjusted the seating to come in at 1.15-ish for this. I want to say 1.15-ish, yeah, 1.15. So that is my new, and where are we at? With just this, there's my perfectly flush. So we will do another test run of these 5, which are X's instead of nothing or a single slash. So 5 X's. I will run them through here, create pseudo fakey rounds, no primer, no charge, just a bullet and a casing with this setting. And I'll be right back, and we'll run it through here and we'll see what we get. And we are back. 1X, 2X, 3X, 4X, and 5X. So let's see what we have for consistency. 151, 1.151, 1.16, that's a biggie. 1.152. Maybe we'll run that one through again, make sure that didn't, 1.154, 1.156. Let me put these through again and just see. All right, what do we have, 1.15 something? Yep, same. So we're just going to call that the variance of the bullet. All right, now the real test from a, how did we do? That looks good. That looks nice. That looks good. That looks good. It won't matter because somebody will accuse me of, doing some shit behind the scenes. So I'll call that my final adjustment. I might play a little bit with the bullet seating. We'll see how these shoot. I can't remember what the max, let's see, do I have cartridge overall length on here? Yes. My max Cole cartridge overall length is 1.162. So as long as I'm less than roughly there. So I have plenty, less than there. So I've got some wiggle room. Again, my biggest I think was 1.159, 1.152, 55, 55, 60, again, depending on where I'm catching the bullet, 0.58. I'm going to call that a win. So now I don't have to do a manual factory crimp die. So that will significantly speed up my reloading process, because I would make, 200-300 bullets on the Dillon, and then I'd put them aside for a day or two, and then I'd run them through the turret, and that's a lot. And now I won't have to do that. So that takes away part of my argument for needing more die stations, because this factory crimp micrometer seating adapter takes the need away for a dedicated seat and a dedicated crimp. And I get a better result than I would if I was using just the straight up cedar crimp from RCBS. So no dings on this, but as you can see, the results for me and what I'm experiencing with the check, with the die sizing check or the bullet sizing check, I'm a happy camper. That's good stuff. So I will do this. Well, if it's not the battery running out, it's the memory card getting full. So as I was saying, this is all set now for 9mm. I don't have to worry about doing my factory crimp on my Lee Classic turret. So that is golden. And I will do the exact same thing. So I picked up the 44-45 version of this as well. So I will add this to my lock and load press, where I have also an RCBS seating and crimp die. And I will add, as I dug up, I found an old, I'll call it extra. So when people are selling stuff and they're getting rid of it cheap, I pick up extra, because you never know when something's going to get damaged and or needing to change. So I will, there's the factory crimp. I will put this over here, lock this up in here, and I will put this there. And we are good. We are golden. So Lee, you are rocking the house with innovation. This is good stuff. I'm telling you. What they did with the seating die to add a micrometer, and then what they did by creating a dedicated die with a micrometer for next to nothing as compared to their competitors. And then to do this with the factory crimp, to make the factory crimp even that much better and turn it into both a seating and a crimping die with a micrometer for like, I want to say these were $20. I'll put the price up. Picked it up again. This was the Midway grab bag of stuff. So kudos to Lee. You guys are rocking it, and you're creating investment protection and longevity for what I've been purchasing. So good stuff. That's it for tonight. Thanks all.